great wrestling podcast, and you can believe in that.
I knew he was going to do it. I knew.
This is OT3.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to OT3. I'm Anthony, and as you can see, it's just me tonight. But of course, we got Paul again here tonight. So, Paul, how you doing tonight?
Great, man. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Matt had prior engagements tonight, so he's sorry he couldn't make it. He tried to move around his plans and make it back, but then stuff got delayed. So he will be back next Monday, and both of us will be here again with Paul. So we'll just, I'm the one-man band, as he always would like to say, the one-man show. And with that, I'll segue right into Backlash, where we had the tag team title tournament, crowned the first SmackDown tag team champions. And we started off with the Hype Bros versus the Usos after American Alpha was taken out of the match due to Chad Gable's MCL sprain. That was storyline, which I wasn't a fan of, but we'll leave that there. And so the Usos got a second shot, as well as the Hype Bros, even after the Hype Bros had lost to Rhino and Slater in the previous round. And we saw the Usos victorious to advance to face one-man Gore, as some people are calling it, Rhino and Heath Slater. And I'll tell you what, I was 100% very happy with the result being that Rhino and Heath Slater, the one-man band, gets his SmackDown contract and his SmackDown tag team titles to become the first ever, tag champs in SmackDown history, the new ones at least that they made. So I thought that was fantastic. That was a great way to start the new tag team title division there with those two, because those were added last second. And I mean, they even had a match against the Headbangers. So, I mean, that was a great way to start, this new era of the SmackDown tag team division. I also like the Usos heel turn, I'm excited to see them and American Alpha continue the feud, and, of course, see how the Rhino and Slater continue as a team. Do they turn on each other, or is this a team that we see around for months? So, another huge match was, of course, that led off the night, which was an awesome match, was the six-pack challenge for the women's championship to crown the first SmackDown champion. And it was elimination style. And it was a good 20-25-minute match. And it saw Becky Lynch become the first SmackDown women's champion, which was fantastic to see. I know Matt and me both were thinking Nikki Bella was going to be the one to pull it out. And I was very surprised to see that Becky Lynch did actually get the championship, because she's well deserving of it. All the way from NXT, the Four Horsewomen. Since those days, she's the only one that had not held gold, whether it was in NXT or in the WWE main roster. Obviously, Sasha and Charlotte have won the women's title on Raw, and as well as in NXT, and Bayley was NXT women's champion, I think the longest reigning one. So now she's on Raw as well. So it was good to see Becky, be the face of the women's division here on SmackDown. But it was also a surprise to see that Carmella was the last one standing with her, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing this heel persona that they keep pushing to Carmella, and see how her and Nikki Bella's feud happens, and who Becky Lynch's first title defense will be against at No Mercy, which was just announced already as the next SmackDown pay-per-view. So
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on. Two brand new championships, a total of 4 title matches though. You also there was 2 title defenses, and 2 brand new titles were finally given. So that was nice. Nice. It was a nice card, to be honest with you. I know I read a lot of people just weren't too sure about it, but they were like, it wasn't as much star power, because Raw and SmackDown now with the brand split, there isn't, everyone's not on every card now, but it's showing, it gives you a lot more time to see some of these other guys that maybe weren't as big on the air, on TV I should say, that you didn't get to see as much, and now they're getting that time to be like, hey, you know what, this is SmackDown's only show, go out there and have a match. Like I said, the six-pack women's challenge started the night, and they got a good 20-25 minutes. So, that's what you want to see. You want to see these matches showcased. And who would have thought that Heath Slater, a guy that wasn't even drafted in the brand extension, would be the tag team champion now, and the first one on SmackDown. And Rhino, another guy that wasn't on Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown in years, except for one appearance to help the Dudley Boys this past year. But he hadn't been on SmackDown, I think they were saying, since it has to be over 10 years since he's been on SmackDown. So, yeah, definitely a big shock, but very happy to see that Heath Slater finally gets that contract, because he's been one of the more entertaining things I've seen on TV. I mean, even going as far as now in the crowd because they were asking how he was saying, I need this contract for my kids. And he was like, I have 2. And he's like, no, I have 7. So people were holding up signs over their head that said Heath Slater's kids, you know? So it's a good thing to see, that they're finally, listening more to the crowd and pandering to it and giving Slater a chance here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's their bread and butter. So if they if they're gonna ride that kind of popularity or whatever, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Another match that took place on the pre-show that I forgot to mention was actually announced yesterday before Backlash started was Apollo Crews took on Baron Corbin. And a pre-show match was another 2 huge NXT standout guys. I wish that match would have been on the main show. Unfortunately, I guess with the way they had it planned, they didn't have time for it on the main card, but they still had a good match, and it saw Corbin win. I would have liked to have seen Crews go over. I think Apollo needs to get that big win, but I also understand why Corbin gets it, because Corbin wasn't on SummerSlam. Crews was in a losing effort, but at least both of them are on, pay-per-view and getting that publicity out there and hopefully getting that exposure to continue to do big things on SmackDown, because I think 2 of them could be huge world title contenders for the next 5 years or so. So moving on to the first title defense of the night, it was The Miz taking on Dolph Ziggler. The whole booking of the situation from the beginning I didn't like. Dolph Ziggler, won the #1 contender shot on the first SmackDown after the brand extension to become the #1 contender for WWE World Title. Faces Ambrose at SummerSlam, loses. Miz wins against Apollo Crews. Miz does that great promo on Talking Smack about Daniel Bryan, and just people just calling him a coward and saying he's not the champion, he's not a real champion, he's a coward.
Right.
And it was just awesome, and it was really authentic. And I think it kind of put Miz on another level again that people haven't seen in a while. So Ziggler comes out and gets himself put in a match with it, and I just don't understand why he went from the world title to the Intercontinental title. I understand the world title is supposed to be the higher title. I get that. But what was the point of having him face for the Intercontinental title? And he comes up in a losing effort. So now he's lost for 2 titles in a row at 2 pay-per-views, and he didn't even earn a match for the Intercontinental title. He never even had like a #1 contender shot, nothing like that to earn it. So I'm not really too sure what their plan is with Ziggler from here. I know the Miz won in kind of controversial fashion because Maurice, his wife that stands at ringside, sprayed like some kind of moisturizer or spray into his eyes, and that led to the Miz hitting the skull-crushing finale for the win. And it continues that heel character and doesn't do much for, the people saying that he's a coward or he doesn't, he takes the easy way out, because he was having a great match with Ziggler, but again resorted to finding an underhand tactic and his heel way to continue his Intercontinental title reign, which I'm happy that they didn't have him lose to Ziggler.
So how long has he held it for yet?
Man, I gotta say he's got to be pulling. I want to say he's got to be pulling up to 200 here shortly. I'm not sure where exactly. I know he's over 160, but I'm not sure the exact number.
200, about 200 days is what you're saying?
He's coming up to it. I'm not sure the exact number.
Wow.
But I think at SummerSlam he was in like the 140, 150 range. So yeah, I'd say he's probably about like 170 or so. That's off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up to fact check it. But by the time No Mercy rolls around, the next SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view, if he does hold on to it then, he should be at the 200 mark or maybe a little over it. So that'll be a nice title reign to see, instead of seeing the title, being played hot potato with and just being passed around from this person to this person.
Right.
So
what do you think's going to happen? I mean, do you think, or is that not part of the story yet, him losing it?
I think The Miz is going to hold on to it for a little longer. I think that he should lose it to a younger guy, and then it kind of helps them and that's the thing, if he holds it and he keeps winning matches, it makes more credibility for the title. So when someone else new wins it, it's not like they're getting it and then it's like, oh, okay, we're starting all over again. That's what they have to do with these titles, because when it gets passed around and guys lose it, or they don't get put on TV enough to have the matches, you're just like, oh, that title's still around. Yeah, I'm not really too worried about that.
Right.
So like the United States title was a great example. John Cena was actually the United States champion for a while, and every Monday on Raw, this was last year or 2 years ago, he would have a Monday Night Raw Open United States Challenge, and whoever wants to come down, have a match, and he would do it every Monday Night Raw that he was champion. And it brought a lot of prestige to the title, because not only was this, the face of the WWE that was holding the championship, but you were seeing the title every Monday on Raw being, defended. And not to mention, whenever there was a pay-per-view, he was defending it there. So you were seeing it week in and week out on TV. And I think that's what they need to get back to with the Intercontinental title. And it will also do great things for The Miz. So I'm hoping that, I'm figuring Miz and Ziggler will see each other again, especially the way the match ended. But I'm hoping that The Miz actually gets a win without the help from anybody else. I hope it's a clean win on his next one, and he wins it, and then, it continues to build his prestige, and he gets this longer title reign, or as he calls it, the never-ending Intercontinental title reign, to continue on to, for a couple more months, I would hope. But knowing the way it's going, they're probably going to have Miz lose here soon.
Okay, gotcha. He had a good run.
Huh?
So he had a good run.
Yeah, if he held on, he's got it still right now, so we'll see how much longer. But the run's definitely been a good one,
So
to say the least, for him.
how often, like, let's say he has this huge run, which is I'm guessing is probably a pretty impressive run so far, in terms of how long he's had it, right? I mean,
Right.
okay. Like, how often do wrestlers, when they win this championship like that, or they have their title, do they lose it and then like win it back? Is that play out like that ever?
It sometimes it does happen. The most recent example of that, I'm trying to think. It happened. Charlotte, that's who it was. The women's champion on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
She had the title for about a year, almost a year, going into a Monday Night Raw before SummerSlam. She lost it to Sasha Banks. Then about two to 3 weeks later, she had the rematch at SummerSlam, and then won it back from Sasha Banks.
Okay.
So,
Right.
sometimes you see it happen on the next title defense, the person reclaims it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not usually as likely. Usually, they try to give someone the title for a little bit longer. But Sasha was also dealing with injuries at the time, so that was kind of why they, gave it back to Charlotte so quick, because they weren't sure the extent yet. But usually, 90% of the time, unless it's like a way they're trying to build a character, they'll usually have that person, win it and then lose it immediately if they're like someone that isn't ready to have that spot, because it's a bigger spot to put someone in if they're going to put the championship on them, because obviously they're going to be seen more, they're going to be relied on more. So that's why I think with Apollo Crews at SummerSlam, they're still trying to give him that build, and I think that's why he had the match at SummerSlam, but he didn't win the title yet. But I definitely see him, I could see him still being the guy that beats The Miz in a couple more months if it's not Ziggler at the next pay-per-view.
Gotcha. Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah.
I threw that question out to the chat room. I think Matt is in there. I don't know if you could see it on the.
I didn't check that. Thank you for that.
On the screen. Can you see it on the screen?
No, I don't see it on the screen. I actually only see the left corner of the screen.
That's weird.
I don't even see my picture yet, so I can't.
Oh, that's strange.
I will check.
I don't know how I can fix it. Let me see.
I will check the YouTube chat as you say that.
There it goes.
Yep, there it is right now. I could kind of see the chat a little bit. This is definitely a little better for me.
Yeah.
I could see a little more.
Yeah.
But another big match that didn't take place that was very disappointing. Thank you, Matt, for watching at dinner. Don't worry, we won't say anything. Hopefully, no one sees this that you're with and doesn't give you a hard time.
What if the waiter's watching and he's just like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?"
Write your order in the chat. See if the waiter brings it to you. Another thing that we was Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. I know it was a match personally I was really looking forward to, because Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt are two guys that had something going on before Orton got injured over almost a year ago and had to be taken off TV for 9 months until he returned in July at Battleground to set up his match with Lesnar. But we never really got to see it come to fruition. We were finally going to see it come to fruition, and it was a huge match on this card, and it was one of the big, driving points of the card for me. I was like, oh, you know what? Backlash is going to be really... I mean, Backlash was still good, but that match, I was like, this could be a really, really good match, and it's something we could see for a couple months. The promos leading up to it were good. Mm-hmm. Everything leading up to it was good. And unfortunately, Orton wasn't medically cleared before the match even took place. It was being, talked about before, Backlash even went on air. And then sure enough, when Backlash went on air, they were backstage and you see Orton, leg caught in the door and Wyatt's just beating him and just closing his leg in it to kind of do a storyline out of it. But now the word coming out is that because of the concussion-like symptoms of Orton from the Lesnar match still at SummerSlam, where he had the staples put in his head, he was unable to be cleared. He was passing the concussion test, but not steadily enough. They weren't liking the what's the word I'm looking for here?
So they were. So what happened? So he's got
He was passing like the concussion test because
Yeah.
of when him and Lesnar had that match.
Yeah.
But they weren't consistent. That's the word I'm looking for. They weren't consistent enough to where they felt comfortable to him to carry on a match yet.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
Because he did have the staples in his head. The staples were taken out, but they said that due to the concussion and he did pass tests, but they said it wasn't consistent enough to where they thought he should be in a full-blown match yet.
Okay.
So, but then he ends up that, Wyatt comes down to the ring. They say Orton's unable to compete. And Wyatt says, hey, you know what? I want a 10 count. I want him to say that he can't come down due to forfeit. So they count it. He counts to 10. Bray Wyatt stands there victorious, but then the announcer says, you actually have a no-holds-barred match against this man, and out comes Kane. Not a big fan of this Kane coming out to face Bray Wyatt, considering Wyatt hasn't had a match on TV or on pay-per-view in a long time, longer than I can remember. And the first SmackDown pay-per-view, he faces Kane. The match wasn't half bad.
Okay.
My issue was that Wyatt lost again. Yes, Randy Orton came out and RKO'd him, and that at least made it somewhat okay with me. That Orton was the reason that, Wyatt lost, so this way it can continue the feud for the next pay-per-view that if they can, or even on SmackDown to have a match. But I'm just really angry that this thing with Lesnar, now, I know that, it was part of it, but now this just cost another big match to happen that we could have been watching at Backlash, and this is now almost 3 weeks from the pay-per-view event, and he's still facing symptoms from that match.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, one I know Matt is probably really wanting to talk about this, and I'm sure we'll get into it again next week, but when is it enough that, this guy just does what he wants, as Matt would say? I understand it was part of it, to him to go over by TKO, but now Orton's missing, marquee matches at pay-per-views. The co-main event basically is what it was.
Okay.
So
when is the next pay-per-view coming up?
well, you have Raw has its own pay-per-view 2 weeks from yesterday on the 25th, and then October.
What do you mean? So
9th?
it's actually Raw pay-per-view, or is it like?
No, like it's Monday Night Raw presents the pay-per-view. So like it's the Raw brand has their own pay-per-view, and then the SmackDown brand will have their own pay-per-view.
I see. Okay.
They're doing that now. They added more, and they're still going to do the ones where both of them are on the card, like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble. They'll both have Raw and SmackDown will be on both of those, all of those pay-per-views.
Yeah.
But they're also adding now to where they each have their own to kind of showcase their talent just with them.
Gotcha. So what do they have names out for them yet?
Yeah, this past one was Backlash. Then 2 weeks from yesterday, on the 25th, it'll be Clash of Champions for Monday Night Raw. So it's going to be basically showcasing all the titles for Clash of Champions. And then I think it's October 9th, SmackDown's next pay-per-view will be No Mercy. What's really cool is those 3 pay-per-views were all past pay-per-view names. Clash of Champions was from WCW, though.
Okay.
But Backlash and No Mercy used to be pay-per-views that WWE had on a regular basis probably about 10 years ago or so.
Oh,
They kind of phased them out with the new, like they kept changing the different kind of styles. So, but it's cool to see them bringing them back.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's cool.
And yeah, what was the other thing I was going to say about? I think it was something about Orton. The thing that I thought was weird about that match was if it was concussion symptoms, I was surprised to see they actually let Orton RKO Wyatt. If they were that worried, I understand it was only one move, but it doesn't look good if that gets out that you were saying, hey, he had concussion symptoms, wasn't consistent, but you still let him perform, a move where he lands on the back of his head and neck to perform it.
Yeah.
To me, that kind of was like, okay, maybe there's more that we don't know about. Maybe he didn't heal right, the staples or something like that. So I'm wondering to see how that will play out with that. And hopefully it's not more severe of an injury that we're just getting its concussion for now. And hopefully, Orton will be cleared to go, ready next week. So.
Right. Yeah, that's I mean, hopefully they do bring him back. I mean, or at least he gets better. I get like you were saying, like you don't want him to be sitting around. You want him to start wrestling so people can watch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And Albert, I see you writing in the chat there, the one they scripted. Are you talking about Lesnar or are you talking about the Miz's promo? So I'll let you get back to me on that. But while you do that, the main event of the night, the one that everyone was, talking about, would he finally win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and finally get that crown jewel that he's been waiting for in the sports entertainment? And would Vince finally let AJ be the champion? and it was a great match. Some awesome spots. There was one spot especially that I know a lot of us talked about was they were on the ring apron, and Dean Ambrose slingshotted AJ head first into the post, and the thud it sounded like, I was just like, oh man, this guy's unconscious. I really thought that he was out.
Really?
You know,
Oh god.
yeah, he hit him. If you get a chance, I'll have to see if I could find a clip for you. I know it's on the network too, but I'll see if I can maybe show it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, he really got him. But a lot of close falls. Great match overall, and AJ Styles ends up winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And if you would have told me this years ago when he was in TNA and he was their crown jewel, that he was going to be the champion, I would have said no way. And now AJ Styles is standing with the most prestigious, title in WWE today, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
And rightfully deserved. He beat John Cena. He's now the face that runs the place, as AJ would like to be known as. And he won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And I could not be more happy. And that's why I think that Backlash overall was a great show, because you saw Heath Slater and Rhino win. You saw AJ Styles win. The Miz continued his reign. Becky Lynch got the Women's Championship. And I think that every match, the only one, like I said, was that Orton and Wyatt didn't take place, which is why I don't think that it couldn't have been even better. But it was such a good card for, just being a SmackDown only show. It didn't go the full 3 hours, It didn't need to go the full 3 hours, because you just wanted to showcase the talent that was there. They have their matches and you move on. You don't need to, drag it out to make it worse, or to try, just to get to the 3 hours. You have the quality there. Finish the matches, let them happen, and you move on to the next one. And I think that it was a great start to these brand exclusive pay-per-views. And SmackDown's a little bit thin on talent compared to Raw, because they do have the 3-2 when they did the draft. But I think SmackDown put on a great show for their first one. I was very impressed with the women starting the match, starting the night. I thought the Miz and Dolph Ziggler was a great match. I would have liked to have seen it end a little differently. The tag team title match, it wasn't bad, but again, like I said, Heath Slater and Rhino winning was huge. And then AJ and Dean Ambrose had a awesome main event to close the night, and saw AJ as a champion. So I think that it was just a very good overall show, and I really don't have many complaints. The only one I would complain about is that they could have had someone else come out against Bray Wyatt, not Kane, but at least it's probably going to be a one-time thing with Kane and him, and it'll be that Orton continues his feud come SmackDown when he returns.
Nice. What was the question you had for Albert? I could put it in the chat.
He just said the one they scripted to do. I'm thinking he was talking about the Lesnar thing.
Okay.
With when he hit him, but I'm not. That's why I was just trying to get more of an insight from him to see what he was talking about, because obviously I just saw it now, so I wasn't. It could have been when I was talking about the Miz, or was it talking about Lesnar? So that's why I saw your question last was about the Miz, so I didn't know if that was what he was in referencing to. So
Okay,
if he,
gotcha. I just
if he-
posted it again and see what he says.
yeah, if he gets back to us, then we'll cut back into that. The other huge thing we want to talk about today was the CWC. I know we haven't really covered it much, but like Paul and I were talking about a little before the show started, and Matt and I had spoke about, was we didn't really talk too much about it because the spoilers were out there, so we didn't want to one way or the other, our predictions. We didn't read the spoilers, but we didn't want our predictions to end up being right, and then, thinking that we spoiled it for you or anything like that. So we kind of just held off. And now on Wednesday night on the network, you're going to get to see the Final Four in a 2-hour finale, for the Cruiserweight Classic. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised at the Final Four. I really thought that at least one NXT guy would be left in the Final Four. But you have 4 guys that aren't competing in WWE currently. Now, they might have signed contracts after, but when they first came into this Cruiserweight Classic, they were not part of the WWE. So it was really cool to see that WWE didn't really use any of their guys to be in the Final Four. But, you have Zack Sabre Jr. and Grand Metalik in the first match. And then on the other side, you have Kota Ibushi and TJ Perkins.
Oh, that's an awesome name. Kota Ibushi. Oh,
Kota Ibushi, yes.
nice.
So you have to think that Kota Ibushi has been the favorite since the beginning. So you have to think in that match, I'll talk about that one first since I mentioned that one second. I've watched Kota Ibushi match. I haven't seen too much of his work before this, but I've watched him in his Cruiserweight Classic, and he's had great matches. In the second round, that was probably one of my favorite matches of the whole tournament between him and Cedric Alexander, another guy who I thought should have maybe gone a little bit further, but unfortunately he was matched up with Ibushi, so it didn't work out too well for him. But phenomenal match. Can't wait to see what Alexander does next. And I've heard that he's coming to Monday Night Raw to be part of the Cruiserweight division, as well as a lot of the other guys in the competition. Some other early matches that were fantastic. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano was the first round. It was the last match of the first round, and their tag team partners actually in NXT. And that was just a fantastic match. And that's one of the matches that actually was like, all right, you know what? I need to take notice of this Cruiserweight Classic. But getting back to where we were, Ibushi, he's beaten Cedric Alexander. He beat the Cinderella story of it all, the Brian Kendrick, someone I was actually personally rooting for to make it to the Final Four. I didn't think he'd win it, but unfortunately, again, another guy that ran into Ibushi at the wrong time. And Ibushi definitely was tested along the way to get to the Final Four. And then he's going to face a guy that some people might know that watch TNA, TJ Perkins. Another surprise here. I thought, like I said, an NXT guy would make it. I expected Rich Swann in the final round before the Final Four. It was Swann versus Perkins. I expected Swann to be the guy to represent NXT, and represent WWE, but he actually lost. And to me, I think that was an upset because I was really, like I said, I was expecting it. But Perkins has been awesome throughout the tournament as well. But with that being said, I think Ibushi is the guy here. I think Ibushi goes into the finals over TJ Perkins. And that brings me to the second match, which is Zack Sabre Jr. versus Gren Metalik. This match, to me, is a little bit tougher to call just because I feel like they both had... I know more about their, where they've been. Zack Sabre Jr. is huge Zack Sabre Jr. is huge on the indies as well as Metalik. Like, they're both very huge superstars. I had heard of Sabre Jr. more than Gran Metalik, but Gran Metalik's been awesome throughout this whole tournament as well, putting on great matches, both of them. I'm a little more impressed with Gran Metalik's high flying ability. Vinny, welcome to the chat. And I'm excited to see that match, and I think that they're going to go with Zack Sabre Jr. here to win. Gran Metalik is another guy that is going to be in the Cruiserweight division. If I didn't already mention that, I might have. But another guy I like to see. I want to see more from him, but I think it's going to be Sabre Jr. versus Kota Ibushi for the Cruiserweight Classic. And now these are both two guys that were rumored to be offered contracts in the WWE from this, and both have turned it down. They said they had other commitments, they had other stuff going on, and they were not going to sign with the WWE. So that's why I was another. You got to think, Paul. And this is just a business thing, in general. But if you don't have a guy that's even committed to your company, and they're letting these guys win matches on their, on their network. And they might just walk at the end of the day. They win the Cruiserweight Classic, and that's why you have to have respect for this whole tournament, because they're not doing it based off of, oh, well, this is the guy that works for me, so I'm going to make sure he looks the best. They're doing it based on the talent that they see in these guys.
Right. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's that says a lot, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's why I really enjoyed this tournament. And I hope they do more, similar tournaments too. That's not saying maybe a Cruiserweight Classic again, or maybe they'll start doing this yearly with, bringing in new people and bringing back people that lost in past rounds. But, we're going to my prediction is Kota Ibushi versus Zack Sabre Jr., and I'm predicting that Kota Ibushi will be the Cruiserweight Classic champion in a great final match to end the Cruiserweight Classic and what's been a heck of a tournament. And like I said, I hope it returns, or at least tournaments in a similar fashion return. And I'm looking forward to a lot of these other guys that were in the tournament earlier, as I mentioned, Alexander, Metalik, even guys like Tony Nese, a Long Island guy like myself, and a couple other guys, to see them show up in the Cruiserweight division or even in NXT and see what, continue to see these guys show up on WWE TV, because they were awesome. And even the Brian Kendrick, I know he's a older guy, been around the WWE before, was on SmackDown and Raw at least 5 years ago plus. So maybe see him return again, and give it one more run here in the WWE. But definitely was very impressed. And if you guys haven't had a chance to watch it, definitely go back and watch some of these matches. Ibushi and Kendrick, like I mentioned in this past round, Perkins and Rich Swann. All these matches that happened before here. If you want to kind of just get a little more about what these guys were doing to get to this spot and see what you're in for if you haven't seen it. Because like I said, this Final Four is live. There's no spoilers out there that you could have read beforehand to see who's going to win the match like you could with the other rounds. So go take a look. If you read the spoilers and you're like, you know what, I'll wait to the Final Four, go watch this now on the network and take a look at some of these matches. Know what these guys are going to bring to the table. So when you watch it, on Wednesday, and you're in awe of what the talent that's been in these tournaments this whole time, you can see what you have to look forward to if you see these guys showing up on TV, or even if you continue to follow them on the independent scene. So definitely interested to see how that on Wednesday night, how that pans out. But I'm gonna go with Kota Ibushi to be the Cruiserweight Classic champion.
Kota Ibushi.
Yeah,
Love that name. Oh my god.
it's awesome. It is awesome. Another thing, segueing from that Cruiserweight Classic is in a couple more. I think it's next week, not this week. I'm pretty sure it's the following week. The Cruiserweight Classic will be on Wednesday. The Cruiserweight division is going to debut on Raw. So as I said, I mentioned some of the names that are supposed to show up, but will someone else show up that wasn't mentioned, or maybe they're keeping it on the on the down low, so that's a surprise that they show up on Raw. And how will the championship pan out? Will maybe the winner of the Classic be the champion? And it would be a surprise to everyone if they actually signed after, if it ends up being Ibushi or Sabre Jr. that says they weren't going to sign at the time, and they show up on Raw and they're like, this is your inaugural Cruiserweight champion, and he'll have his first title defense, at Clash of Champions. So, we'll see how that pans out. So, speaking of Raw, tonight, the big match that everyone's talking about is Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Now, obviously, this past week on Raw, Seth Rollins was, we'll go with ticked off. To keep it mild there, but he was vehemently upset with Stephanie McMahon, asking what happened. Did you knew about Triple H costing me that match on Raw? Why would you do that to me? And Stephanie said I knew nothing about it. And Seth Rollins was seeing right through it. He didn't buy it. Mick Foley's buying it. I'm not too sure yet how I feel about it. I think that Stephanie knew Triple H was going to do it, but Seth Rollins didn't want any part of it, and it finally completed this face turn that they had been rumored for a long time, that Seth Rollins would become, the next top guy as a good guy, no more being the heel. And, Owens is inserted as the champion, and he was already a great heel, and now he seems to be the top heel currently on the Raw brand.
Right.
And now you're going to have this match take place at Clash of Champions between Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. Roman Reigns came into the mix because at the end of Raw, Roman Reigns showed up and tried to insert himself, and Mick Foley made the match and said next week, which is tonight on Raw, Kevin Owens will face Roman Reigns. If Roman Reigns wins the match, he will be inserted into the title match, and it will become a triple threat at Clash of Champions. But if Kevin Owens wins, it remains Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Now, my prediction is that Owens will win, but I think Chris Jericho, Owens' best friend, as he calls him, will get involved somehow to cost Roman Reigns. I don't know if he'll physically, get up on the apron and grab him, or I think he'll come down to the ring and distract Reigns enough for Owens to pick up the power bomb to pin Roman Reigns, and then that will set up Chris Jericho and Roman Reigns at Clash of Champions is what I think is going to end up happening on tonight on Raw with that match.
All right. Vince, I guess, doesn't think that Reigns will win at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it, and that's the other thing is Rusev, the United States champion, they were supposed to have a match at SummerSlam and never even took place. Roman just started beating him up before the match started. We haven't seen Rusev. I know he's been out, he got married and he's been having his honeymoon, so you got to think maybe he shows up too at Clash of Champions, and maybe him and Roman finally have that United States title match that never took place. But I'm going to stick with the prediction. I think that Jericho will do something to aid Kevin Owens and make sure it continues. It stays a one-on-one match at Clash of Champions. And another thing from last week, I know, Sasha Banks tweeted that she had some bad news, and everyone immediately thought, oh, no, it's an injury. She's going to have to retire. And she did this huge speech, and basically the bad news was that she's not going nowhere, and she's getting her rematch at Clash of Champions against Charlotte. So will Sasha Banks reclaim the title now that we know she's healthy? Or is it going to be, Charlotte continues another long title reign again?
How long has she had
And
it?
she had it before that. Like I said, almost a year. She lost it and then won it back within like 3 weeks. So is this the start of another huge title reign maybe for her? I think that Sasha might win it back already on Clash of Champions, but Matt and I will probably dig more into that in the next couple of weeks with the show. It'd probably be next week actually, won't it? Because it will be next week because it's 2 weeks from yesterday when wow. I can't even keep up with these. These pay-per-views are going so quick, and then 2 weeks after that, you'll have No Mercy, that is SmackDown exclusive.
Oh,
Right now, they're going so quick with back-to-back. You know, you have like a week in between.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got football going on, so it's like
So much going on, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good time of the year for sure.
it is. It's a great time. It's a great time. It is.
I can't
It
tell you how
definitely
awesome
is.
it was sitting down on Sunday just watching football. That was awesome. We
Yeah.
had a little bit of a break. We had like soccer. We had all kinds of stuff going on, just whatever, just regular stuff around the house. And then I was able to sit down for a couple hours and just watch the football finally during the evening. I was like, oh, thank God. It's been a long time.
Did you your Redskins actually play tonight, don't they, Paul?
They do, yes, they do.
Have they started yet or not yet?
No, not yet. I think they'll probably start like around 8:30 is my guess.
8:30. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember the exact time. I knew that game was taking place tonight.
Pittsburgh,
So
though.
Monday Night Raw is going to face some stiff competition. You got the back-to-back. You got the Monday night football games tonight. You got the two tonight. It's a doubleheader for opening week.
Yeah.
So
Aren't you a Pittsburgh? Are you a Pittsburgh fan?
I'm a Giants fan.
Giants. I knew that.
Yeah.
That's right.
See, we can get along now. We're NFC East rivals, but we get along no problem. The Cowboys.
Yeah.
I know Nick's probably not too happy right now about the Giants winning yesterday, but the Giants got to win a game every opening night every once in a while. So.
Well, good for them. Hopefully the Redskins will win. So the Redskins, if they win, and RG3, I think I heard that he's actually on the IR.
He's done,
list
yeah.
now.
Mm-hmm.
That's so far it's a good season.
Yeah, there you go. So, and the reason we're talking about this, if you don't know, Paul is actually the producer as well on, I'm sure you know by now, but on Tuesday nights. And Paul, do you know? I know Matt didn't really. Is tomorrow night? Is there a show for Shipe Sports Talk?
There won't be. I think there was gonna be, but I can't because we're just kind of we're kind of purging a whole bunch of things out of the house as we get closer to moving and things like that. So
Fair enough.
Just, we have things everywhere, and the house is kind of all filled with boxes. And actually, there's actually we're gonna have like a neighborhood yard sale or something like that.
Okay.
This weekend, so we're just getting everything ready, throwing a whole bunch of crap away, and it's just kind of out of control. So every night we're trying to get some stuff done, and having Matt and Chris over is probably just be too much.
That's fair.
Yeah. But
Not
the
a
following
problem.
Week, yeah, we'll be on. But and the only reason why we're not having, I was saying that we're not going to have it is because they did the Shipe Sports Talk live
On Sunday, right?
Which that was cool too. So.
Yeah, and if you haven't had a chance to catch that Sunday special as well as Tuesday last week where we did our live draft, definitely check those episodes out. And of course, us here every Monday night. Like I said, next week the plan is to have Matt back. I know I kind of, it's a different dynamic when I don't really have anyone to debate against. Paul, of course, was awesome as usual, giving me a little insight as well. But I'm sure Matt will cover a little more of this next week. Another huge match I know he wants to talk about is the Final Deletion Part 2. He already watched it. I'm going to watch it this week since I was on vacation. I didn't get a chance to see it. So I will be watching that, and we will definitely talk about that next week more in-depthly. And, of course, we'll recap Raw and SmackDown. And we might even bring up Backlash again, and we'll definitely cover how the Cruiserweight Classic went. That takes place Wednesday night live on the WWE Network. So another pretty big week again. We had Backlash yesterday. You got Raw, SmackDown, Cruiserweight Classic, TNA. We'll be talking about, like I said, the Final Deletion 2 next week. So, and then might even have Shipe Sports Talk again on Tuesday. Probably again we'll be back Tuesday night next week. So Again you'll be seeing Matt again Monday, Tuesday, and Paul you'll see Monday, Tuesday as well. Again you'll be hearing him on Wednesday on his Crazy Talk podcast. So if you aren't subscribed yet, take a subscribe to any of the shows. All are great shows. All are produced by the one and only Paul. So you're not going to go wrong.
Right on. Thanks.
So, Paul, I'll let you take it.
All right, cool. So as Anthony was saying, we do have a bunch of social media sites, but in particular, the Off the Top Turnbuckle is the one that you need to go to right now and like and subscribe. Or if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't yet, What has Vince saying? OT3 tomorrow? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No. Just Monday nights actually. Usually we have the Shipe Sports Talk on Tuesday evenings, but tomorrow we're gonna take a break. But you can catch the live show they did this past Sunday for the NFL season opener weekend. That was a pretty good show. So anyway, right. So OT3 Podcast on Twitter. I'm sorry, OT3 Podcast 1 on Twitter. OT3podcast@gmail.com, and Facebook.com/Off the Top Turnbuckle is the Facebook page that you need to follow, befriend, like, thumbs up, whatever you want to call it. We would be mucho grateful. That's Spanish. But yeah, that's it. So that's my spiel, or schmeisel. What does Matt say all the time? Schmeisel? I don't know.
I'm not too sure. I don't think I've heard that one yet.
What's he say? Okay, thank you, Matt and Paul.
OT3 is lit. Thank you, Vinny. We appreciate you always watching every week. We always can count on you. It's being our #1 fan.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that's all I have. Thanks for watching, everybody. Why don't you
Yeah.
take it away?
So, yeah, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, Matt, myself, and Paul will be back next week, Monday night, to continue to talk about how Raw pans out and preview Clash of Champions and talk about the Final Deletion Part 2, as well as the Cruiserweight Finals. And we hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. From Paul and myself tonight, and Matt, who couldn't be here, thanks for the subscribes. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good night, everybody.
See ya.